Marvel steps it up a notch in the movies this weekend, plus the first episode of the new season of Doctor Who. All on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 128 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hi, Brian.
And so this weekend, starting today, we were recording on Thursday, so starting today, we have Eternals in the theaters.
Ooh, I wonder how that's going to go.
Well, we'll find out this weekend for sure. One thing specifically about Eternals, and I am going to go see it, even though I've spent all this time going, well, who wants to watch God's doing God stuff? But I'm still going to go see it. But one thing I hadn't realized, and it wasn't until I started looking up dates and times for movies, and I had mentioned last time that I was considering driving 3 hours to see Dune in IMAX.
Yeah.
And once Eternals rolled in, all that went away. So basically, all the IMAX theaters now are playing Eternals. And
no.
And so I wasn't able to go, but I'm starting to wonder if that wasn't a good thing. And the reason I say this is I've been hearing a lot of people talking about Dune in IMAX, and specifically the fact that Denis Villeneuve, the way he shot this for IMAX, it's different than a lot of people do it, because most of the IMAX movies, they just shoot it as a regular film and the IMAX camera is running. It's sort of a secondary thought, you know, it's, well, we're going to film the film the way we're going to make it, but we've got an IMAX camera running so we can get a print of it that's big enough for IMAX. It's a higher definition camera, and it's not 16 by 9. It's a little bit different. So sort of an afterthought, really. But Villeneuve, he didn't do that at all. He shot this movie for IMAX, and the movie was the secondary. He shot everything to take advantage of IMAX. So for him, IMAX was the preferred way of seeing the film. And a lot of people who've seen this film in IMAX, they've said, once you've seen it in IMAX, you're not going to want to see it any other way.
Oh, okay.
He said, it's obviously an IMAX film. It was meant for IMAX. Seeing it even on a big screen with a 16 by 9, it loses a lot. It's a lot more of an impressive film. It's a more beautiful film. But of course, the issue with that is unless you're a millionaire and you can afford a home IMAX screen, then you'll never get to see it in IMAX unless they re-release it or whatever. So it really, in the States, only had like that 1 week that it could play in IMAX, and then Eternals comes by and just wipes the whole thing. So I don't know if Dune will come back in IMAX. I hope that it does, because I would like to see it in IMAX. Although it sounds to me that if I see it in IMAX, I'm not going to want to watch it again. Because it's like, that's the way you want. You have to see it, you know. And I've heard some people say that once you see it in IMAX, you can't go back. It's that big of a difference. And so maybe we'll get the chance to see it. But in the meantime, now we've got Eternals. And I don't know if I'm going to wind up seeing it this evening or sometime this weekend, but I am going to go see it. Do you have any plans for this weekend that you're going to maybe try to catch it? Or?
Probably not. I'm going out of town with the family, so yeah, that's a that's a thing.
Oh, I hear you. So, but we'll definitely talk about it next week, and I am looking forward to seeing it with my reservations, obviously, but I am hoping very much that I'm going to enjoy this a lot.
Yeah,
and
still might be, the fun roller coaster ride. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as of right now, Marvel hasn't disappointed me yet. And even movies that I didn't really think I was going to be that into, I was really into. I'm certainly willing to give it a shot, and we'll see what happens. Also, this week, we got the new trailer for Morbius.
Yeah. Yes. Wow.
What I found interesting about this trailer, there's references to the MCU. There's references to the Sonyverse.
Yeah.
Because we get both a Spider-Man reference and a Venom reference. So the question is, of course, after the mid-credit scene that we got for Venom, I wonder where the MCU Sonyverse where the lines are going to be drawn, because it's looking more and more like those lines are getting really fuzzy.
Yeah, I much prefer those blurred lines when it comes to bring them all over. Love it.
And of course, with the multiverse coming into the MCU, that does give them the ability to explain why things are different, but, getting to see characters interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something we're going to need to talk about, I think, today, because there's another possible blurred line that we might wind up having.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one that you don't expect. But
okay.
For us to talk about this, we got to start talking about Doctor Who. Yes, I broke the music out. Of course, we had to. Now, my understanding is you haven't seen this.
I haven't. No, not yet.
So we haven't. I don't want to go too much into plot with this because it goes all over the place.
And in a good way or a bad way?
I would say in a necessary way.
Okay.
Because this is going to be a 6-episode single story.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you've got to introduce a bunch of threads to start off with. So there are some things that we only see once, but they're basically setups for everything that's going on. But it looks like pretty much everything that was promised in the trailer has been set up in the first episode. So we get to see the Sontarans. We get to see a weeping angel. We get to see these strange-looking characters, these skull characters. But one thing that this episode definitely answered was the Timeless Children. Are they just going to drop it, or are they ever going to cover this again? Mm-hmm. And the answer was no, they're not going to drop it. Not at all. Okay. Hell no. Because this is a huge part of this episode. And the Timeless Children is a major part of what begins to motivate the story.
Okay.
Specifically because we have this character named Swarm, the skull with the crystals growing out of his head, who has been imprisoned since the beginning of time, supposedly by what appears to me to be the Division, which was the organization that the Doctor joined to basically work behind the scenes. And we did get to see a little bit of a scene of that, in the Timeless Children, but they had imprisoned Swarm, and Swarm escapes and kills 2 of the Division guards, and does it in a really strange way. Some people noticed this and some people didn't, because Swarm was actually played by 2 actors in the same scene. Because what happened was, the way Swarm killed these guards is he drew their life force out of them and rendered them into ash. But he absorbed the life force and did something that looked very similar to a regeneration.
Ooh, okay.
So this character's face changed. It looked more reptilian, and then brought this life force energy into it, and the face completely changed, and we had a different actor playing the character, and so therefore we had what looked to be of type of regeneration. Now, it wasn't the typical Time Lord or whatever race the Doctor happens to be regeneration. It was something that was similar, but it was certainly a type of regeneration, and so now we begin to wonder, who is this character? Where did it come from? Why did the Division believe that they had to keep this character contained? And we get a couple of answers as this episode goes along, because apparently this is a character that the Doctor has fought for a long time. But apparently it happened when the Doctor was in the Division, and when the Doctor's memory was wiped, doesn't remember this character anymore, which Swarm considers to be an advantage, because Swarm remembers all the battles, the countless eons that he and the Doctor fought, and the Doctor doesn't. But the Doctor has been thinking about what she learned on Gallifrey. She was looking for members of the Division, was able to find one, apparently the only one that at this point has even survived. So the Division has been wiped out, it would seem. And Swarm apparently is responsible for that. And so we have Swarm, and we have this battle of the ages that has been going on for a long time, but the Doctor doesn't remember. We also have something which Swarm seems to be attached to that is so powerful that it is able to reshape the TARDIS. We see, first of all, there's something leaking from the TARDIS inside, and then multiple doors start opening up to the outside. So something actually has the ability to warp the TARDIS. At this point, we don't have an explanation of why this is happening. And then we get to the flux. The flux is this energy field that is able to wipe out time and space in its path. And we see it wipe out a ton of planets. And it's heading toward Earth. We know not a lot about the flux except that Swarm seems to be responsible for it, or certainly knows about it.
So we're looking at the gelatinous cube of space.
It's a huge pulsating fiery energy field that destroys anything in its path. So powerful that when the Doctor, trying to fight this thing off, opened up the TARDIS and hit it full head on with the entire force of the time vortex, and it shrugged it off like it was nothing, then we knew we were in trouble. So there was obviously a lot more stuff going on in this episode, but it really is setting up, examining more of what the Doctor did during the time that they were in the division, what kind of stuff was going on, what is Swarm's attachment to this, how does Swarm's sister weigh into this. Again, we have the Weeping Angel shows up in this one, and the Sontarans, and there's other threads that are basically started, and we see Vinder, the new character. So they're basically starting these threads, and I think the next 5 episodes may take these threads maybe one at a time to investigate them and to basically weave this story. That's where we are right now with it. There's a lot of questions that have been asked. And I will say I did enjoy it. It didn't slow down for a second. This was a let's push forward as fast as we can go. And a lot of people have said, and I can see this, is that for Chris Chibnall, someone who has done mostly episodic television, like Broadchurch, that this is more in his wheelhouse than writing individual episodes, which he's done for Doctor Who. This plays more into his strengths, and it does seem like this, for me, is a better episode than some of the other ones that he's written, the one-offs. Perhaps this is going to be a better representation of what he's able to do in Doctor Who. But
okay, so the big question is, how does this tie into a Marvel and Sonyverse? What's going on?
Well, here's the thing, because, and I think we pretty much covered Doctor Who, but we have talked about, of course, after Flux, and then after these specials, then Chris goes away and Jodie goes away, and then we have
Russell T Davies.
Exactly. Now,
coming home. Yep.
Yes. Now, here's where things get interesting, because Russell T Davies isn't coming alone. He is bringing along with him a production company, Bad Wolf. Bad Wolf has been around since I think about 2016. And they've done a small handful of really good shows, like A Discovery of Witches. They did that one. And His Dark Materials.
Yes. His Dark Materials on HBO.
Yes.
I've only got to watch season 1 so far, but I loved it. And, having read the books, great interpretation of it.
So, yeah, they were responsible for both of those. But what I didn't know about the deal is I thought, okay, well, BBC and Bad Wolf, they're going to have a co-production. Because, of course, BBC, they produce Doctor Who, they pay for the episodes, and, now that Bad Wolf is coming in, maybe they're going to split that. But I found out, no, that's not what's going to happen. BBC will only act as the distributor.
Wow, okay.
Otherwise, they're not going to have anything to do with Doctor Who. They will just take the episodes and put them out on television. So that means that everything else, creating the episodes, coming up with the storylines, all that, that's Bad Wolf. BBC doesn't have a say in any of it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
When you think about it, that's...
That's like 50, 60 years of,
Yeah, exactly. And BBC, they decided to be hands-off on it, and Bad Wolf is going to be running the show. And what's crazy about that also is the fact that that means BBC is not going to be making nearly the money that they were making before on Doctor Who. The cut's going to be, from what I understand, $1 million, $2 million an episode that the BBC isn't going to be getting anymore. Now, obviously, Bad Wolf's putting all the money in, but the thought that BBC is going hands off on this is just going to distribute it, that's unprecedented for a lot of BBC shows. But, I mean, Doctor Who? Now, you ready for the big twist?
Yes.
Bad Wolf is in negotiations right now, and they are just about done with these negotiations. Bad Wolf is about to be bought by Sony.
Oh, okay.
So now do you see what I was saying about crossovers?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So Bad Wolf is going to be doing Doctor Who. They're going to be producing Doctor Who, shooting the episodes, and very, very soon they're going to be owned by Sony.
So Doctor Who is going to be a Sony property.
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly sure exactly how that's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the BBC has given the rights to Doctor Who to Bad Wolf. I wouldn't see them doing that, but they certainly have a lot of leeway to do whatever they're going to do with that character that they want. And so,
wow,
what does that mean?
It's going to be an interesting future.
Yes.
Either way.
I certainly think that it will be.
Yeah, you know, they won't have access to BBC studios and things like that, but they're going to have sound stages at Sony and travel budgets that they didn't have before. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Sony being able to put their vast financial backing on it. I mean, you can just imagine with that kind of money. I mean, forget about the crossover stuff. It's kind of cute. I doubt very seriously it's going to happen, or at least even if it does, it's going to take a while, obviously. But Sony being able to back Doctor Who, and with their resources, like you say, money, budgets, special effects, and something else is not that obvious unless you think about it. Sony properties on PlayStation for games.
Oh my goodness, a Doctor Who game.
Yeah, we've gotten Doctor Who games in the past, and I'm trying to remember what the name of the last one was that came out on Steam, but it wasn't very well accepted. It was very glitchy. People weren't a big fan of it, but to see a Doctor Who game exclusive for PlayStation 5, especially with their programmers, the Spider-Man franchise, is incredible. But just to imagine what they could do with a Doctor Who license and make a video game, that's insane.
Right.
Doctor Who may be ready to blow up once again, but that being said, there's a lot of, I hate to say it this way, but there's a lot of repair they're going to have to do with this IP because, and again, I still don't believe it's Jodie Whittaker's fault. I think this has had a lot to do with a lot of the writing and a lot of the story. The show has lost some of its popularity. And there are some things they're going to have to figure out. And certainly they're going to have to figure out stuff with this timeless child thing, which not a lot of people liked. And I'm one of them. I've called this the Cartmel Master Plan version 2.0. And I've heard other people come to the same conclusion. It's definitely something they're going to have to address. And perhaps these 6 episodes of season 13 will address it to a degree that it's either going to be palatable or they're going to be able to retcon this in some way or explain it in a way that makes it more palatable to the audience. I certainly hope that's the case because they are definitely doubling down on this timeless child. They're not walking away from it at all. And like I said, it is the main focus of this whole series. Because of that, hopefully they're going to do something with this. I'm intrigued. And so with that said, we come to the end of episode 128. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.